This is going to be the most difficult and most morally challenging video I do so far on the channel. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and as always, if you're new, please do consider subscribing to the channel, like and share, and do post your comments down below. Welcome to the Dark Gang. Now today, as part of Valentine's week, I decided to look at probably the most controversial movie ever released or ever known to man, and I'm talking about Tyler Perry's Acrimony, which was released in March 2018, so that's about 3 years ago. I'm going to do two things with this video. I am going to give a character breakdown and ultimately decide who was right, in my eyes at least, from my perspective, and also going to give a review, but let's do the review first. So we know the story of Acrimony is about a couple who goes through a divorce after 18 years of financial struggles and difficulties laced in with cheating and so many other problems, which eventually leads to the success of the man, which also does lead to the downfall of Taraji's character. So this movie has really garnered a very unfavorable and negative review score from Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of it has to do with the Melinda character that Taraji P. Henson played. There practically wasn't a payoff, for a lot of things that she went through, and how it ended really pissed a lot of women off, especially. And understandably so. Now, to be honest, I have watched this movie about 5 times, maybe even more. I have had different opinions watching it through and through. And I'll tell you this, the more I have watched it, the more I have tended to understand and sympathize with Taraji's character. Now, as much as you may get lost in the movie and you may start forming your opinions right off the bat about who was right, who was wrong, who should have gotten this, who should have gotten that, I believe Tyler Perry was telling a much bigger story in the context of these characters. Art imitates real life. There's no way you can tell me that this doesn't happen. It does. I mean, we've heard stories. We know these things happen. Personally, we know some people that have had this go on in their lives, at least to a certain degree. I noticed 2 major inconsistencies that I'm about to show you on the screen right now. The first of which is in the hospital scene. That hand sanitizer you see towards, I believe, the right part. I'm not looking at anything right now, but on the right part of the screen, you see that hand sanitizer dispenser. Per the setting and per the year, I believe this is supposed to be in the 2000s or the late 90s. Those hand sanitizer dispensers, to the best of my knowledge, don't show up until the 2010s. So that's a little production design detail that got lost. Now, the second scene in question is with regards to the boat scene where Taraji makes the crew jump into the ocean. Now, if you do know anything about Hollywood production, you know these water scenes are shot in pools, but it is made very apparent that it's a pool when you look towards the middle of the screen and you actually see the borders of the pool. If you're watching this video in 1080p, you will see exactly what I am referring to. I have slowed the video down in post to make you see what I'm talking about. Now, you do see that the boat surroundings are darkened, and that's a Hollywood production trick to mask off certain bad visual effects that may have slipped through production, and also to give the general illusion that yes, this is the ocean, but of course we do know that it is not. Now, we also see Adriana Alexis play a younger Taraji P. Henson. In this context, we are talking about a younger Melinda. The first character that Adriana Alexis played, a younger Taraji, was in Empire when she plays a younger Cookie Lion. Now we are at the controversial stage where a lot of debate has been generated, and what I have done is I have drawn up a whole list of defenses for both characters as well as flaws for both characters, and done a lot of calculations on the back, which will make sense eventually. So let's do this. So this is what I did. Seeing as this falls under the genre of a psychological thriller, what I did was I made sure to look closely for certain elements that will solidify this movie as such, and I did find it, and it's quite easy to spot. Taraji spends a lot of this movie in a counseling session. Now, to be frank, I did the math, and in terms of screen time, minus the opening credits and the end credits, Taraji spends, and I have the number here, give me a second. When you take out the opening and the ending credits, Acrimony is actually 1 hour, 52 minutes and 56 seconds long out of that 2-hour time span. The story through Taraji's eyes is 1 hour, 24 minutes and 36 seconds. In actual percentage, this is 74.91%. Actually 75% if you want to round it up. So 75% of this movie is told from the perspective of Taraji. And that's the thing with a psychological thriller. It's always about seeing it from the perspective of one person. Now this is mainly due to the fact that she was in this counseling session. There are scenes that she narrates that involve her. There are scenes that we see where she's reacting to things in real time. It is very possible that some of the facts may have been altered to fit Taraji's narrative a lot better. Now that's not to call her a liar. Having watched it a number of times, I can tell that her narration is very airtight and is in fact consistent with a lot of the things that Robert does. Now you have to keep this in the back of your mind, that most times the victim is not always your most reliable witness. And since 75% of this movie is being seen through the victim's eyes, that is Melinda, it is very possible that some things are skewed off and push the narrative in her favor. Now, just for shaggy reasons, anything outside of Melinda's narrative was 28 minutes 20 seconds long, and that includes a lot of the scenes involving the man. So yeah. So I'm going to start off with Melinda's defenses, and I'm going to start with arguably the biggest one. 18 years. It's practically a testament to Melinda's character, of how strong she is, how much she loved the man, and how much ultimately it wasn't about money. I will come to that in a second, but it ultimately was the love for her, and it's a testament to her integrity. And goodness, there's no better place to start. Majority of women are not spending that much time. Matter of fact, a lot of them will leave the second they see danger coming. So for her character to go 18 years loving this man, working 2 jobs to keep them afloat while he was chasing his dreams, it's a testament to her character, it's a testament to love itself. Now this ties into my next point, which is this. Robert did act like an opportunist in the beginning. I have to consider the fact that his backstory is very well explained. We do know his dad is incarcerated. We know he doesn't know his mom, who left him with his grandma until she died when he was 14, and then subsequently has to live with an aunt who lets him live in the RV that got run over by Melinda, and girl power. I'm with that. Now this was practically the classic example of catch them young and they'll be yours forever, when it actually works. Now I think this also captures when a woman is in a very miserable state of grief and how easy it is to manipulate her, how vulnerable she can be. And the first instance of this is where Robert takes the virginity of Melinda in the RV with Nina Simone music, putting a spell on her. Essentially, when you look at the interpretation of that, that's what it tells you. And then this also ties into the subliminal messaging that Robert sort of used with the magazine he was holding with the car at the front, which leads Melinda to think, oh, I should get him a car or something. $26,000 gone down the drain from $350,000 of a life insurance policy. So there's that. And that brings the phrase to my mind, that is this: never do wifey duties for a man that is not your husband, and consequentially for men, never do husband duties for a woman that is not your wife. It's going to blow up in your face. We saw it happen. Now in him being an opportunist, it does lead to him cheating after he got the car, and it must have been the most painful thing. If you've ever gotten something of value for a man or for a woman and they take you for granted, you know how this feels. I understand why she went insane. Coupled with the fact that she already had anger issues and some paranoia, which is confirmed to have been gotten from her dad. Going as far as she did to run the car over, in some ways might not have been the best course of action, because that was what led to her losing her womb. But I perfectly understand it. Here's the thing, you really can't teach a person how to deal with their grief. You really can't tell them how to deal with their grief. It's like that thing that they do in Africa where someone may have lost a parent and they are crying, and then you see someone tell them, don't cry. Let me stop. It hits me hard. So ultimately, would there have been a better way to deal with things? In hindsight, probably. Hindsight's always 2020, so probably not that 2020. Geez. She actually lost her womb for this man and stuck to him. Crazy. She's the one that actually came up with the Gale Force Wind name. Now, since there were no papers to back this up, this is why the law can be so ruthless at times. This would mean that there was no legal claim for which she could use to say, oh, I was the one that came up with the name. I was the one that pretty much gave this whole life to this man, all because I named it the Gale Force Wind. So sadly, rather than it being legal, this would fall under the moral jurisdiction of Robert and Diane. Another defense for Melinda was this: Robert was unnecessarily secretive. This played into the cheating, this played into when he got the appointment with Diane, who there was a bit of mad history with, since she was the one that he had actually cheated with on Melinda. And this would have made it a lot easier when he had gotten that sudden appointment at the firm, because she would have some foreknowledge of it, that, oh babe, I know you are going to do this, I know you have given me your word that you can trust me, I'm going to do this and to make our lives better. So here's the thing: Robert didn't really have that much privacy in his marriage to Mel. I think personally, if there was an iota of respect that elder sister had for Robert, she would have confronted him first, rather than go to Melinda and tell her that, yo, I found a purse in your man's car, this man may be doing this. And then Melinda, having these anger issues, will take your word for it, and then the whole situation escalates. If you ask me, I think this was the premise for which the whole movie broke on its head. This was it. This was the incident. She cared about her sister deeply. They all did. They wanted to see them win. They wanted to see them succeed. And seeing that things weren't going well, they wanted to help. But that's not the way to do it. Now, this really did reinforce something I've always known, and it's this: when you're in a relationship or a marriage with somebody, it's you and the person. You keep a tight circle, and you don't let anybody else in to know your business. And when that starts happening, then you have all sorts of problems. Now, this has been one of the more talked about defenses for Robert that can also be used against him by anyone supporting Melinda, and it's this: $10 million may not have been enough, but seeing the man's perspective and seeing the circumstances, I can see why this is a defense. Now, in that restaurant scene, Melinda actually said she was owed $1,234,908.07, meaning that outside the $350,000 as life insurance policy money that she already received after her mom's death, she had to spend an extra $884,908.07 in expenses to cater for Robert and his dreams. And now I know, yeah, people will say, oh, but $10 million is enough, which really is an excess of $9,115,091.93. So if you look at those numbers, you see how much of a disparity is, like, oh, he gave her more than she should have gotten, and yada yada yada. And I get why, from that perspective. It's like, that's the least he could do, seeing that she wanted to be divorced from him, seeing that when he showed up, she literally said, we are never getting back together again. And then in about 18 seconds, she's just left shocked after he tells her that this is what it is. Now, this tells me that ultimately, money doesn't solve every problem. And especially in that context where she's been broken emotionally. I mean, 18 years cannot be replaced with $10 million. Let's get that fact straight. But understanding the man's perspective as well, it was more of the least he could do, seeing that she was never going to get back with him. And seeing that, okay, this is all I can do for her. This is the least I can do to make her smile for everything she's ever spent on me, everything she's done. It's like almost 10 times the amount of money she ever spent on him, but it doesn't compensate for 18 years of loyalty. And let's be frank, Melinda was never with Robert because of the money. If it was because of money, let's be frank, she would have left him a long time ago. She wouldn't have stayed for 18 years waiting on him to do something. I know a lot of people are drawing from that scene where she shows up at the penthouse and she shows up in the lingerie that's hidden under that long trench coat she had, and it was like, oh, okay, so now that you see that you are making his way back. And I see why that perspective is there. A lot of women are gold diggers, and that was a bit of a gold digger move. Now, to be frank, the way the thing was portrayed made it look like an absolute gold digger move. But when you look at the character consistency of Melinda, you do realize that, yeah, she really, it's not her. She's not the type to go in for money. So now I've seen the flaws, I have seen the defenses for both characters. I need to look at the bigger picture that Tyler Perry was portraying. A woman hurt or a woman scorned, you can't negotiate with that. You can't tell that. It's even said in one of the lines that's delivered by Diane. Sometimes you need to move on for your own sanity. I think if she had taken a much safer approach and not put all her expectations in that one moment of the lingerie scene, maybe she doesn't get her heart broken the way she did, and maybe it hasn't set her off on this course of derangement where she's constantly going after them and sending 3,300 messages of threats. Now I need to answer the ultimate question of who I ultimately side with, and I will tell you this: the very first time I watched the movie about 2 years back, I was fully with the man. But having watched it a number of times, I have grown increasingly sympathetic to the plight of Melinda and what she was going through mentally and all those things that led to her death eventually. It is for that same reason why I still have to go with my boy. Now, let's be honest, when you understand a man's perspective, and I may need to break this down a little bit, there is the argument that says that, oh, maybe she wanted him to fight for her a bit harder. We never really sit down to think about the deeper implications of what a woman might be meaning by her words or by her actions. Because truth be told, if we assume 95% of the time we are wrong, and an assumption that's wrong is ultimately a lot worse than doing only part of it and not following through at the end. So yes, he probably could have held off on signing the papers, but seeing as he also had some pressure on himself, quite honestly. Both sisters were in the proceedings. She didn't seem like she even wanted to look at him or do anything with him again. I see that as a man, I'm like, okay, yeah, she's set on it. When women are resolute on something, they're resolute on something. It takes God to kind of change their hearts on that. Now, that doesn't mean they are not capable of change, but most of the time when a woman is resolute on something, she said it. Her heart is set in stone. There's really nothing you can do about it. And a lot of it starts to turn for the woman where she leaves 3,300 nasty comments under this woman's page. How much time did you have? I mean, yes, she's hurt and you can't teach a person how to handle their grief. But at the same time, going to such extremes and even going to the extreme of violating the distance permit. I've forgotten the name. It's a bit fuzzy on me right now. But to violate the orders of the court in that respect, getting on the boat, shooting at people, attempting murder. Robert survived, by the way, but attempting murder. And I haven't mentioned this, but when Taraji P. Henson wants to play a psychotic character. And to be honest, let's look at the man's circumstances, for example. So the whole family scorns you. He could have decided to go back to Melinda, but how is that going to go? Would he get rejected again? Would it be the same old snappy comments from this sister who just won't give any breathing room? Would you neglect the woman that really helped you to achieve your dreams? Which was ultimately the woman that he cheated with on Melinda, which just makes the whole thing ironic. And Tyler Perry, what were you thinking? And ultimately, I don't think it should have garnered so many negative reviews. I think it's very well acted, very well written. It does challenge the bounds of your morality. I believe generations will see this movie and that debate will spark and it will live on for so long. So ultimately, I understand and I empathize with the woman, and I empathize with everyone else that supports her. Part of my heart goes to her, but to the extent of wanting to kill her, kill him, that is, I'm sorry, I have to go with the man. I really do. Alright, so Acrimony, what did you think about it? I know I'm going to get slandered a lot in these comments, and you can feel free. That's why I do this anyway. I have a lot of content coming up very soon, so please make sure to subscribe, or at least consider subscribing to the channel. Like, share with your friends, and I will see you in the next one. This has been Darkman Papo. Take care, wear a mask. COVID is a real thing. Please, COVID is a real thing. I'll see you in the next one. Darkman out.